They just came out with the Des Moines Register Bloomberg poll, and the numbers were so good for me, which I'm happy about. It all doesn't matter if you don't caucus on Monday. It all doesn't matter. It's just the polls don't matter. Nothing matters.
Where we are right now, this race is a dead heat. It is neck and neck. Now, it is effectively a two-man race.
I'm just trying to get as many people to caucus for me as possible. I don't know what that leads to other than success, and I feel good about it. I really do.
The top three Republicans in Iowa, they're all trying to fire up their supporters before Monday night. Joining me now to talk more about it, Washington Post national political correspondent Karen Tumulty. Karen, thanks so much for joining. And our panel here with us.
Merry Christmas Eve. I mean, Merry Caucus Eve here.
Okay, it's Festivus for the rest of us. Our panel is here. Phillip Stutts, former campaign manager for Bobby Jindal and the director of George Bush's 2004 Get Out the Vote drive. Bernard Whitman, former pollster to President Bill Clinton, and Lauren Victoria Burke, managing editor for Politics 365. Thank you all for joining us. Karen, let's start off with you first. By the numbers in the ground game, you heard Donald Trump say the very same thing that we're hearing on both sides with Democrats as well. It means nothing if we cannot get these supporters out. It's interesting with Donald Trump. His supporters have all lined up behind him. They are convinced he's their guy, except for the fact that there are about 46% of the voters in Iowa who've not decided who they want to support. By the numbers, how does this play out as you see it?
Well, I think the poll, the Des Moines Register poll that we were all waiting for last night is a pretty good indicator of where things stand at this moment. But what it does suggest is that particularly, I think, on the Democratic side, it's anyone's ball game right now between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. This is a very, very close race. And, Trump's model he's right. I mean, who would have ever thought we'd have heard Donald Trump saying the polls don't matter? But he's right in that his whole path to victory is premised on all kinds of people showing up for these caucuses who never have done it before.
So, Phillip, when we look at it, if there's a high turnout, the stats show that it would help Sanders and Trump. I keep hearing people say, well, these are first-time caucus goers. They were first-time caucus goers who supported a man named Barack Obama and stunned the world. So are we overplaying that line because this election has upended everything that's been conventional wisdom? So you go to those rote memorization things like first-time caucus goers.
Well, yeah, I would tell you this: that it's a good line to go to because if you get right, and 4 years ago there's about 121,000 people caucus in the Republican side, and if it goes over 150 this time around, I think it's Trump's win. Under 150, I think Cruz takes it. So there's got to be a lot of new voters. What the voter registration rolls have told us in Iowa is that there haven't been really an alignment like there was with Barack Obama, where there's this influx of new registered voters.
When you look at Lauren, 45% could still be persuaded. Another number I'm always fascinated with, when you think about and you hear from Iowa voters who say they cannot take another ad. If they hear or see another ad, their televisions will explode and the family dog will run out. So who are these undecideds at this point?
I think the undecideds are just like everybody else in the country thinking, hey, can we vote for this person, Donald Trump? They're thinking the same thing that everybody else has been thinking the entire year. Can this person win? Is this the person? And there's just something in me that feels like we'll see someone else winning tomorrow. Cruz, Rubio, obviously there's a big rumor of a Rubio surge. I'm not sure that I completely believe that, but there is something about that big undecided that would indicate that they haven't decided on Trump.
But I know you're saying that, like the rest of the voters out there, they're saying, if you're a Republican, can you vote for Donald Trump? But Bernard, Iowans have been up close to the fire. I mean, they see the Trump Force One roll into town, and they've seen it more intimately. And they've also been inundated with ads who have pointed out that some evangelicals believe he's a phony when it comes to his faith, that he has not provided any specifics other than to make America great again.
Yet his support among white evangelicals is very, very high. I think you're going to see a very tight race on both sides. Ultimately, I think that Trump will narrowly edge Cruz. I think that Hillary Clinton will narrowly edge Bernie Sanders. If you look at the internals in the race between Clinton and Sanders, that's where you have a lot of advantages for Hillary. Why? Because these first-time caucus goers actually are much less likely to vote. The best predictor of whether you're going to show up is if you've shown up before. She's got a huge advantage among this group. If you're over 65, you're much more likely to vote. She has a huge advantage with this group. And you talk about the people whose minds still could be changed. Hillary Clinton supporters, about 4 in 5 of them say, she is my candidate. I am not going to change my mind. Bernie Sanders, only 2 in 3. And we have to remember, in the Iowa caucuses, you have to go there, you have to discuss, you have to debate. She's got an edge in those caucus rooms because I think her supporters are more committed to her and believe in her electability over Bernie Sanders.
And Karen, that's a great point that was made here by Bernard. You know, when you see the split screen of their final rallies yesterday, you've got Bernie Sanders with, you know, the young crowd, and it's very vibrant. And then there was a split screen of an event with Hillary Clinton yesterday, and people described him as less enthusiastic and old. But those are the people precisely that will show up for her. I saw 2 different interviews with young college students. One said he had class, and the other said, I'm going to try to make it. That has to sink Bernie Sanders' heart when you hear a supporter say, I love him, I'm enthusiastic, I'll try to make it.
Yeah, and, you know, again, this is the question. This is the big question. I remember, though, when the Des Moines Register poll came out in 2008, I was on the Hillary Clinton bus, and, you know, Mark Penn put out a memo that day, her pollster, saying, look, you know, these are people who aren't going to show up. So again, we'll see when we see. But the kind of wonderful thing about Iowa is, like, it seems like every 4 years they just delight in proving the punditocracy wrong.
Yeah, that's true, but don't they want to pick a president? I mean, they have had Mike Huckabee, Santorum, and I'm sure that they were very proud of those votes at the time. But does Iowa want to pick a president?
You know, there is just not a lot of evidence that is the thing that drives Iowa voters, and I don't know that. Especially on the Republican side. And again, I just don't see all that much evidence in the polling or in the crowds that has changed.
All right, Karen, thank you. Thank you to our panel. I've met all of you for the first time. I normally sleep in on Sundays. This is an exciting Sunday. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
and we'll be back with our panel later in the hour. Up next.